I found we have the most exciting modes of transportation. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Joy,
I live in the US,
and I live in England
and we were across the world.
on a mission.
In this episode, we are talking about transportation and getting around our location. Yep, we are in the Ukraine and Japan and Taiwan. And how did we get around these places? So, Joy, you start. I'm going to put this one on you.
Okay, yes, transportation. Yes, getting around Kiev, it was mainly by foot, or sometimes we cycled with my students, or most times when we were going downtown Krishatik, which is the town center, we would be going down there on the metro, what we call the metro. And it was really daunting at first because I had to learn my stops. I had to learn the sounds because of this. Remember, I'm new in the country and I don't speak Russian as yet, right? I don't speak Russian as yet. And my lovely director, she's doing, a lot to help me to get around. Um, and so she's teaching me the different sounds, what to look out for, and so on. I'm learning the alphabet because we need to learn to read as well when we get to our particular stations because the writings are different. Yeah. And so it was by ear initially that I learned, my stops on the tram or the train, or the metro, as they call it there. So basically, the most part, for the most part, where transport is concerned, I wouldn't say we ever used car unless my students' family would pick me up from home or so. Then that's when I would ride in a car. But most times the it's the it's the train,
Wow.
yeah, or the metro.
Sounds very traditional, Joy.
Yes.
But in my experience, I found we have the most exciting modes of transportation. When I got to Taiwan, I was told that we are going to be riding bikes
Okay.
everywhere you go. First of all, when I got to Taiwan, I noticed that there were tons of motor scooters or motorcycle, as they
Mhm.
would call it. Everybody had one. I mean, tons. You would go to a train station, and in the train station, there would be motorcycle parking, and there would just
Oh.
be hundreds of parked motorcycles on in the parking lot. And so, but when we got there, they didn't allow us to ride motorcycles. They were like, "Yeah, we want you guys to be safe, so you guys are gonna ride a bike." So we all were given bikes,
Mhm.
and then we had a helmet. And my bike had a nice little basket in the front. Some bikes had baskets in the back as well, and that was how we got around Taiwan. In
Okay.
Japan, it was the very same thing. Lucky again, we got bikes, and that's how we got around
So
Japan. We
didn't you need a license to be able to ride?
No, you could ride a bike without anything. So
Oh,
we
okay.
we we traveled back and forth, going to the supermarket on my bike. I would go grocery shopping. You guys, I would be grocery shopping. I would have my bag in the front, my bag in the back, and I must admit I was a little scared at first
Mm.
because as we got out, we had to cross over the street, and it was like almost like a 4 lane highway coming out, and so there was a
Wow.
lot of traffic going in, and it's almost like we had to learn the moves. I had to get with the flow of traffic. I was going against traffic, and when we would all go out together, all the teachers, we had about maybe 6 teachers in that school,
Mhm.
and sometimes we would go out together and we would all follow each other and ride our bikes. It was funny. It was fun, um, and it was just thrilling. Some of it was thrilling because some of it was scary.
Mhm.
But we did it. In Japan, it was the same thing. I remember in Japan, I would have to ride over an overpass and I would have to take my bike up the stairs, like 6 stairs up, and then I could ride on top. And I could even ride down the stairs because there was an
Wow.
in between path on the steps that was flat to ride your bike down the stairs.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, let's just say I did that only a few times. But
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. How
I
did you do your grocery shopping?
okay, interesting. I walked because the bazaar, as they call it, the bazaar is like the market, and that's where you get your fresh fruits and vegetables from. And then there was a place next to the bazaar where you would get like your, like at your delicatessen, where you would get your little breads, rolls, and all those things. So we would walk there, maybe about a 10-minute walk down the road from where I lived. And um, so, so getting to the supermarket or the bazaar, as they call it, we had to walk like about 10 minutes.
Wow.
It wasn't a long trip at all. 10 minutes. And it was obviously you get there on foot. It was walking
With your groceries
with your groceries on foot
to come back.
to come back home. There was no bicycle, there was no nothing like that. I had to carry the bags in my hand. But remember, I was shopping for myself at the time. And pretty much the thing is, I would shop like twice a week for things like uh what you call it, bread rolls and so on, because obviously you want those fresh. But every week, like every Friday, my director, she would come and then we would go. That's before I was left alone. She would come and we would go every Friday to get like fresh fruits and so on. So it's just a walking journey. Going to We have a place called Gidro Park. Gidro Park is like a park where you have like boat rides. You go out on the boats, you cycle with your foot, obviously, just a pedal, like a pedal boat. Some of my students, they would take me there. We would have to take the train there. And I remember Gidro Park, I think, was about 3 or 4 stops from Levobrezhna, where I lived. And so I had to learn that, but that was quite easy because it wasn't too far. I just had to count the stops, right? Then there was the town center, Krishatik. I had to listen out for Maidan, Najalesna, and all those words. I had to listen out. And when I heard Krishatik, then I would obviously, get out for my stop. So it's a lot of listening, but the train more so, they announce, the station that's coming up, as opposed to here in England, especially in London, you would read, there's no announcement, or you would see the writing on the on outside on the underground sign. You would see which station you were. They had the same signs, but like I said, I had to be
Not in
learning.
English.
Yes, I had to be learning the language in terms of learning how their alphabet, is. And I will show you here what my name looked like in Russian, just to show you that this ain't no joke. You need to learn and know what the sounds are so that you can somewhat read where you are, right? To listen out. So that's how really I got around in Christianity. And like I said, my students, because they were taking me out on a regular basis, I soon learned. It didn't take me long to learn the sound of my stop. Before I could read, I learned the sound of my stop. There was actually another, it's like a tourist attraction as well. You would take the train to it, and like when you would visit, I can't remember the name. I think it's Sofievsky Spust. I think we'll insert something here of that place on the hill where we would stop at the train station and then we would go up on it's like a tram, but it's on the side of a mountain, very steep mountain, but it's like a tram that is guided by an electric line. So it's just going up the hill straight like that, going up the hill. And literally when you look over, it's like land, It's so, if anything, and it pops off up there, which it never does, but it's like a very,
It's a little scary.
yeah, a little scary ride. But yeah. So I think it's I'll remember the name soon. But yes, we rode on that little thing as well. I remember that particular attraction as well as a train. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds a little bit terrifying. But I mean, all in all, traveling around our different places was not easy. Let's just say it wasn't a walk in the
Mm-hmm.
park, especially when you don't know. It took me a while to learn my route to the supermarket so that going by myself was possible. I remember there are times I had to go by myself and I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I get lost? Plus, I'm on a bike.
Mm.
I'm riding through traffic in Taiwan.
Wow.
And in Japan, I did ride my bike to work, to the English Bible Center, but I didn't ride my bike everywhere.
Mm.
I would be on the trains when I had to go teach in, let's say, Harajuku, because there were times I had to go teach in Harajuku, and there are times when I had to go teach in Harajuku, and I would have to hop on the train to go to Harajuku. There are times when we would go to Ogikubo, which was just another school that other teachers were at, and we would have a chance when we had free weekends to go and hang out with some of our teachers. We had to hop on the train. There were places that we had to go that were farther away that we had to hop on the train, and we had to also learn to read Japanese to
Mm.
figure out. But one good thing about traveling in Japan and even Taiwan that we encountered was that people were very willing to assist.
Mm.
Yes.
Mm.
So, lessons learned, and I'll start it right here. Lessons learned is the story of just so many people being just willing and very friendly and kind. I mean, to the point where some people, if I went up to someone and asked them, how do I get to Harajuku? What train do I need? They would say, okay, I'll take you.
Mm.
If even if they were going in the opposite direction, they would get off the train and get me on the right train and we would go that way. They would take me to my stop
Wow.
all the way to Harajuku and then come back.
Wow.
So I to me that's just utter kindness. And I feel like my lesson learned is that sometimes we can go the extra mile in order to help others. And it's not always about a rush to go somewhere. Sometimes it's important to stop because you never know who you might meet.
Mm.
You never know what you might be able to learn or to share with that person. And that's why even in the word, God says if somebody asks you for something, don't ask them back for it. Give them more or go the extra mile for them. And I've experienced that from people who are in Japan and Taiwan. And my lesson learned is just to be available also so that you can go the extra mile for
Mm.
someone else.
Mm. I've learned that God is the God of
Hmm.
impossibilities. I didn't know. I'm not very good with languages, and even at school, when I was in high school, I used to struggle with Spanish. We used to do like Spanish and French as electives. Obviously, you choose which one, and I chose Spanish. And for me, I find it's not that I wasn't good with the languages, it's just that I need to be in the zone, in the area, in the country that I'm in to be able to learn, to see how the language is used and to see, how it's, used in the culture, whatever, just to be able to grasp it. And that is how I learned Russian. I didn't know going there. I didn't know a word. I didn't know I would be able to communicate. And I didn't know that it was possible. And I see where God taught me because it's Him. In a short time, I knew the alphabet somewhat to be able to pronounce the words and all of that. And so I see where He is the one who teach, and He will teach you as well. He will teach you and He will help you to get accustomed to, the things that are not natural for you. I remember the day of Pentecost. Remember the day of Pentecost when the Holy Spirit was poured out? You know, He equipped the disciples to be able to share the message in the different languages that were present in Jerusalem at the time. Remember, they weren't speaking in any strange tongues. They were speaking in tongues that, people were people were able to understand. And so the Lord helped me in that way. And the lesson I learned was that the Lord is the God of the impossibility, and where we struggle, He will most definitely equip us to be able to do the work that He sends us out to do.
Oh,
So
certainly.
even with the transportation, he will help you. He will help you to learn if we're willing, if we're willing. And at the time too, because we were so excited, everything was just new. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? So yeah, so that is a lesson learned. The Lord is able. He specializes in the impossibility, and what's impossible for us
It's
is always
possible
possible with
for
Him.
him. Yep. On that note, we'll see you next time on the next episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
I'm Michelle.
And I'm Joy.
I live in the US.
And I live in England
And we were across the world
on a mission.